Welcome to Pod Appétit Gourmet Takes, the podcast with hot takes on food media.
We interview popular chefs and food personalities, sample all kinds of food media, and try cooking challenges in our own kitchens.
Let's dig in. Hey, it's Justine.
And it's me, Meg.
Welcome back to another episode of Pod Appétit Gourmet Takes, where we cook themed recipes every month and chat about the latest food media we've been consuming. So this is our August kickoff. So here is a reminder of all of our August themes. National Peach Month. It's National Sandwich Month. August 3rd is Grab Some Nuts Day. August 16th is National Rum Day. August 19th is Potato Day. And August 30th is National Toasted Marshmallow Day.
Delicious.
Speaking of, Meg, would you share something delicious?
Hopefully. Once again, I'm afraid I am taking us back to the previous month. I have some July leftovers. I promise I will be more on theme next episode. I have entirely August-themed recipes coming up next time, I promise. July was National Blueberry Month. And if you listened to our last episode, which you should if you haven't already, but we chatted with my mom, Mary, and she talked all about cooking competitions and recipe contests. And there was a recipe contest in July put on by the U.S. High Bush Blueberry Council. Who knew there was such a thing?
What a name.
I know, right? Really rolls off the tongue. Very memorable. This recipe contest was called the Great Blueberry Recipe Showdown. Grand prize, $10,000, and a trip to New York to meet Christina Tosi, the chef and owner of Milk Bar.
Oh my God, did you win?
I don't know yet. I hope so. I decided to enter this contest because it was one of the few recipe contests that also had the option to make a cocktail. And I was like, hey, that's right up my alley. Mm-hmm. So I can't share too many specifics about the recipe per the contest rules. And I also can't share a photo with y'all who are listening, but Justine, she gets a very secret photo that she gets to look at.
It's pretty.
Thank you. I decided to make a twist on a highball cocktail. A highball cocktail is very simple. It's just whiskey and soda water over ice in a highball glass. So I took that basic concept and made a blueberry pie highball. I'm sure you can imagine what that might be. I will share the details of the recipe later if and when I can. And basically, just for photo styling purposes, I said to myself, I need to have a blueberry pie in the background of my photos. So I decided to make a whole ass blueberry pie just for food styling. So I also made a blueberry pie. I used my mom's recipe. It is pretty straightforward. You use fresh blueberries, sugar, cornstarch, lemon juice, and lemon zest, vanilla, and cinnamon. That is the filling. I didn't realize how easy it was because I had never made many cooked fruit pie recipes before. But you just throw that all in a pie shell. You just mix it all up and throw it in a pie shell. You don't have to cook it beforehand. It all cooks in the oven. Mm-hmm. I used pre-made pie crusts, which made it even easier. For some reason, I had random pie crusts laying around. So the bottom crust was Pillsbury and the top crust was Trader Joe's. But they were both pretty good. I decided to take this opportunity to do the lattice pie crust on top, which I've never done before. It was pretty easy. I made a little not stop motion. That would be funny if I made a stop motion video of making a pie. No, it's a time-lapse video of me doing the lattice top. There's a little mistake I made. Keep an eagle eye on that and see where I messed up. But aside from the one tiny mistake, which I did notice and I fixed before I put the pie in the oven, but overall, I liked the look of the lattice pie. Very fancy.
I'm just imagining you making a stop motion pie video and then going, could a depressed person make this?
Yes, very Ben Wyatt. But But the pie itself was great. You know, it was more than just set dressing. Of course, I ate it as well. I think that blueberry pie is kind of one of the perfect summer pies. It's jammy,
Yeah.
it's sweet and tart. Sometimes I would serve it with ice cream, so it's really nice to have that warm pie contrasted with some cool creamy ice cream and the very sweet creamy ice cream contrasting with the tart blueberries. Really yummy.
Hmm. Blueberry pie, not my favorite, though maybe I would like it now. I feel like I'm thinking of like when I was a kid and I'd be like, oh, too tart. But like now I've
Right.
definitely, mellowed out.
Yes, as we get older, I think our sweet tooths
Yeah, all of them.
aren't quite as strong anymore.
Yes.
But yeah, it was good, and I will keep everyone updated as to whether I win $10,000. Probably won't. I'm competing against
You
my
don't need
mom.
this podcast anymore.
My mom also entered the recipe contest. She made not a cocktail, but yeah, and so good luck to her too.
Yes, good luck to both of you. And oh my God, it was such an absolute pleasure talking to her last time.
Yeah, she had a great time.
Yeah, she's got the best stories.
Definitely. If you want to hear about Paul Newman and his stank face at her dish, you can listen to that.
Yes. Oh my God.
All right, what did you make, Justine?
Well, it's my favorite holiday. Grab some
Potato
nuts.
day?
Get into that. Grab some nuts today.
Excellent.
Well, I looked through every cookbook to find something I could eat for this holiday, and I may have fudged it a little bit,
It's
but
not
I
fudge day,
chose.
Justine.
Shh. I chose 6-ingredient chocolate peanut butter oat crumble squares from Oh She Glows for Dinner. Yes, I'm counting peanut butter as a nuts.
That's a nut.
Yeah.
It's totally
Technically,
a
it's a
nut.
legume, but
Well, yes, I mean, if we want to get technical about
technical.
it,
Nobody here wants to get technical. No.
it's not called pea legume butter.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. Exactly that. All right. So there's an oat crumble, a peanut butter drizzle, and a chocolate peanut butter sauce. The crumble is dates, coconut oil, rolled oats, salt, and water blitzed in your food processor. The peanut butter is coconut oil, peanut butter, maple syrup, all mixed together. And the chocolate sauce is maple syrup, coconut oil, cocoa powder, and peanut butter melted until combined in a saucepan. So you put down one layer of the crumble packed in a parchment-lined loaf pan. You add the chocolate sauce on top of that. It's a bit thick, Yeah. And then over that, you zigzag the peanut butter sauce, and then another layer of the crumble, which you just gently press down, and then you freeze 40 minutes, take it out, cut it into squares. So I really enjoyed this because it was A, easy to make, and B, the flavor took me back to my childhood. We used to make these boiled cookies that had oats and chocolate and peanut butter. But those also had like an insane amount of sugar to them.
Did you say boiled cookies?
Yes. Have
How
you
does
ever
that
made boiled
work?
cookies?
No.
It's kind of like this. Everything goes into a pot, but like imagine all this ingredients it's in the pot that you melt. So it's like basically you're melting like the butter and sugar, and then you add in like the cocoa and peanut butter and the oats, and then like turn it off, and then scoop, plop onto parchment, and cool in the fridge.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I see what you're talking about. The
Yeah.
first image that came to mind was like dropping balls of cookie dough into boiling water like it was pasta. And I'm like, that can't be right.
Exactly that. Yeah. So that is that. I'm like, oh, she glows. I've made 50 million times. If you haven't heard enough me recommending,
Right.
can't go wrong.
It sounds like a lot of ingredients, which made me think maybe it could be a bit complicated, but it sounds like the process of putting it together is easy.
It's 6 ingredients. You just use them multiple times.
Okay.
It's stuff that I usually have. I always have dates. I always have oats, maple syrup. Like, it's I think I just bought like some new cocoa powder because my old one was like expired. It'll do that. Check your dates.
Hmm. So you
Yeah.
ate this as a dessert, I assume?
Yes, as you know, my famous 4:30 snack time.
Not for dinner, like the recipe book says.
Dang it, I didn't follow instructions.
You failed to notice that part of the instructions. They're only for
Don't.
dinner.
I don't like to eat too late because I'm old.
These look tasty. I want to say they remind me of a Little Debbie of some kind, but maybe I'm just imagining things.
Yeah, they're kind of like
They're like the
an
peanut butter
inside out.
bars, but with oats.
Yeah, exactly. But like inside out peanut butter oat bars.
Hmm. Yeah, it looks really good.
Yeah, I recommend. Grab some nuts.
Grab some nuts.
All right, what do you have next?
For my next recipe, I decided to make something with seasonal produce. Plums are in season right now in August. This is peak plum season. I saw some lovely plums at Trader Joe's, and I remembered that I had seen a recipe for an olive oil ricotta cake with plums. I love an olive oil cake. I think that they are so moist, and there's nothing worse than a dry cake. So I think that's a real secret weapon if you want to ensure that you have a nice moist cake, is to make an olive oil cake. This recipe comes to us from Food 52, but Food 52 adapted a recipe from the Smitten Kitchen cookbook. So I figured I would like this because I love, I think, everything I've made by the Smitten Kitchen. She also has a Substack, which is very cool. So everyone go check out her Substack. It's a pretty easy cake. It has ricotta and olive oil, like the recipe title says, sugar, lemon juice, eggs, flour, leavening agents, and then the plums on top, and the finishing touch is adding a little bit of sifted powdered sugar once it's cooled and out of the oven. So yeah, you just mix literally everything together except the plums. You pour it into your springform pan, and then you have the plums and place them on top. I would say the only tricky parts of this recipe are pitting the plums. It's a little bit harder than you would think, because usually when you're just eating it, you eat around the pit and that's that.
Yeah.
But getting them out is a little tricky. They don't really pop right out. So I ruined a couple of halves. They weren't nice and pretty anymore, but that's okay. I just ate them instead of putting them in the cake. I think I might have pushed the plums into the batter a little bit more than I should have. I didn't want them to be sticking out too much because I didn't want them to get burned, but I also still wanted them to be nice and visible. But if I made this again, I would be a little bit gentler with pushing the plums into the batter. And also you need a springform pan, which is not something I have, so I borrowed it from my mom. And you need that because since you put the plums on the top, if you were using like a regular cake pan, that wouldn't really work because you'd have to like turn out the cake, but then the plums would get smushed. So that's the whole reason for the springform pan instead of another type of pan. But it was really good. It was really good. Like I said, very moist, not too sweet. You have the tartness from the plums and a little bit of that touch of citrus from the lemon zest. I found it to be a very light, summery, tasty cake.
Oh, you just said summery, but I was thinking like this makes me think of Christmas.
Yeah, you could have your sugar plum fairy cake, add some extra crystallized sugar on top. It'd be perfect.
Awesome. Can you taste the ricotta in it?
I can't say that I did really, like, you don't taste it and say, oh, it tastes like cheese, I think it maybe more adds again, more moistness and kind of a little bit of a textural element. I really think it's in the texture of the cake more so than the flavor. I don't think I would have been able to discern ricotta in there if I didn't know that it was in there.
Nice. Well, it looks great. I'd make that. I've made a couple of like sort of upside down fruit cakes similarly in my springform pan.
Yes. Yeah, I need to get my own springform pan.
Do it. It's a good contraption to have. I like it. I'm making this. No, I'm not making it because it has stuff in it. But
You can make some variation on it.
Yes. Finally, potato day.
Finally. Samwise Gamgee's favorite day.
I made baked sweet potato chips by Minimalist Baker, and this was a great excuse for me to buy a mandolin.
Oh, now there's a piece of equipment I had before.
Yeah. Well, actually, I went to Target and bought a mandolin and a waffle maker, but that's a hint for the future.
Oh, very nice.
Well, this recipe is just slice potatoes,
Uh-huh.
toss in olive oil, sprinkle with salt, lay out on a single baking sheet, and bake for about an hour and a half at 250 degrees, checking to make sure that you don't burn towards the end. I will say, Meg, if you can see in that ramekin I have,
Yes.
that is one potato that took up a whole baking sheet.
So this is your entire yield here?
Yes. The shrinkage was so real.
Paging George Costanza.
Yeah, it's people can imagine just like a little cup that I was kind of sad about.
Well, you know what? I didn't know from the photo that it was a ramekin, so you could almost trick the eye into thinking it was like a big old bowl of potato chips.
Yeah, sure. Let's go with that.
So tasty, but maybe not worth the effort in terms of yield.
Yeah, they tasted just like, I don't know if you ever had the ones like the root vegetable chips. Tasted just like that.
Okay, sure.
But yeah, I doubt I would make them again. I was kind of thinking, I was like, maybe I would make these for like a party if I'm doing like my own charcuterie board, you know, something like that where I'm being fancy. But for myself, you just buy the chips that cost roughly the same as a couple of potatoes. I don't know.
Totally. There's certain recipes where I think it just makes more sense to buy it pre-made, especially if the end result is pretty comparable to what you can get out of the bag. And like you said, also comparable cost-wise. Yeah, I'd probably just get a bag of chips too. But it looks lovely. I mean, saying that it looks just like those root chips, when I looked at the photos, I thought that your photo was the Minimalist Baker photo at first. I thought that was the profesh one. So it looks great. Very nice food styling.
I've been just sitting here just doing my fake hair flipping your whole talking. Yeah, I did take a good photo. Yeah, I'm proud of that one. And I like, you know, they're baked, so that's nice. It's not like greasy, fried, you know. But still, like an hour and a half after you've had to like just slice them all up yourself, so you're already in. I gave myself like a 3-hour window to make these, basically.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I am glad to say that I've done it, you know?
Totally. There are definitely foods I've made where I'm like, well, I did it and I'm never going to do it again, but I did it that one time.
Yes. All right. What do you have now?
I want to talk about stuff I've been eating.
Yes!
Or did eat. I recently went to San Diego for San Diego Comic-Con, baby. That's my bag. I try to go as many times as I can. So I was in San Diego for several days, and I was there with a vegan friend of mine. And guess what, guys? San Diego is a great place for vegan food. They have a lot of good stuff. So I'm going to briefly go over some of the restaurants I visited. I do plan to do a write-up on our Substack just entirely about my food experience there, so keep an eye out for that. I will go into more detail. One place we went is called the Yasai. It is a Japanese-inspired plant-based restaurant. Yasai in Japanese just means vegetable, so it's called the vegetable.
Straight to the point.
Yep, it's what it says on the label. There are a couple of locations. I went to the one in Little Italy. I just loved this place. I wish I lived closer to here. My friend and I shared a couple of their vegan, quote-unquote, sushi rolls. We got the cherry blossom roll, which had tofu, pickled carrots, cucumber, cream cheese, and Fuji apples. And on the top was a cherry yuzu aioli with these rice pearls made to look like
Ooh.
masago. This is very interesting. I would say, in general, my biggest critique was that a lot of their dishes leaned very sweet. So this roll was very good. I quite enjoyed it. I don't know if I'd eat it and say this scratches the same itch as the sushi roll does for me, because it was quite sweet, and since it had the cherry yuzu and the apple filling, it almost leaned dessert to me in a way. It wasn't that overpoweringly sweet, but I was like, oh, this is like a desserty profile in a way, but it was very good. My favorite roll that we had, though, was smoked tofu with cream cheese, avocado, and flash fried pickled smoked jalapeno.
Whoa.
This was really tasty, and I think it had some sort of aioli as well. So I love me an aioli. Anything that tastes like mayonnaise, I'm definitely on board for. I liked the smokiness. It was a pleasant level of spiciness. We also got the vegan gyoza and the inari pockets. These were both great as well. More tofu, more veggies, some king trumpet mushrooms. It's all presented very beautifully. Also had a yuzu flavored cocktail. I was very happy with everything I had there.
Yeah, these look so fancy.
Yeah. They were quite fancy. I wanted to order everything on the menu, but alas, my stomach is only so big. Another place I went is called Kindred. This has become a new tradition of mine. Every time I go to Comic-Con on the last day of the convention, go to Kindred for dinner. Again, it's all vegan, so there's no little, you don't have to look out for anything on the menu. You don't have to be like, oh, is this vegan? It is, you know? So just like everything on the menu. For the Yasai, they had a totally vegan menu, and then they did have a menu with a few non-vegan things, but you can just ask for the vegan menu. There's tons of stuff on it. Kindred, it's very quirky inside. They play like heavy metal music. Their drinks are almost all tiki inspired. Not all of them, but like, you know, they've got a lot of the classics, but tiki drinks. I think that a lot of the menu is for like 80s, 90s kids. They'll have like chicken nuggets, Big Macs, peanut butter and jelly, stuff like that. I had a sapling martini, which was gin with like spruce tips, which is very interesting to me. You'll see in the photo there's little spruce tips in the olives. It's like a little bit of a Christmas tree.
I'm like, what are spruce tips?
Yeah, it's the tip of a spruce tree.
Is that edible?
I ate it.
Okay.
I think it was. You know, they were very soft and pickled. I believe they were pickled. So I ate one of those spruce tips.
All right.
So yeah, anything's edible if you try hard enough. We also got some puff pastry with za'atar seasoning and tomato confit and a garlic sauce. That was really interesting because it's hard to find puff pastry, vegan puff pastry. Had an appetizer that was just a whole bunch of different mushrooms battered and fried with the, again, yuzu aioli.
This looks so good.
It was really good. I feel like yuzu is maybe very in right now, which I'm not mad about because I love yuzu. But it came with this dipping sauce that was yuzu, shiso, and dill. It was kind of ranchy, very, very tasty.
And this makes me think of that conversation we had where we're like, stop using just one kind of mushroom.
Oh, yes. Yeah, there were
look at the variety.
Lots of mushrooms in there. I want to say at least 5 different types of mushrooms, which I was very happy about. And for my main, I got their egg roll burger, which was used impossible meat, but they called it shumai impossible. So, you know, trying to go for shumai flavorings and seasonings and had a kind of slaw on it. Again, more aioli. There was a fried egg roll wrapper that they put on it to give it more of that egg roll flavor. Very tasty. And then for dessert, we had essentially s'mores, but it was with snickerdoodle cookies instead of graham crackers. Yeah. Justine's making a face. A good face.
A good face.
And lastly, we went to a bar called Mothership. This is by the same owners as Kindred. And I'd been wanting to go there for a long time because they're very secretive about it, and I think like a smart way,
Ooh.
like if you go to their Instagram, like there's no pictures of their food or their drinks. It's just like illustrations and it's themed like a crashed spaceship. So like a spaceship that has been marooned on an alien landscape. And I'm like, color me intrigued. I love
Yes.
Kindred. I want to see what else they have in store. The menu for Mothership is very similar to Kindred in a lot of ways. Their drinks are very tiki centered, very tropical drinks. And unfortunately, since it is so popular, I wasn't able to make reservations for food. I was only able to make reservations for their bar. So I
Mm.
just got to look at other people's food.
Oh.
But the menu looked really good. It looked very Asian and especially Japanese inspired. There were a bunch of toodle? I tried to say noodle and tofu at the same time. There were a bunch of noodle and tofu and rice dishes. They also had okonomiyaki and tempura. So I would love to eat there someday
Ooh.
since I'm sure it's the same like standards as Kindred, but Japanese inspired food. I got myself a very nice drink that I quite liked, and it was also called Nostromo's Stowaway, which was one reason I
Yeah.
wanted it because for the aliens nod there. So I enjoyed Mothership a lot as well. I would really highly recommend all of these places. And a quick shout out to a couple of other places that weren't strictly vegan but had a bunch of vegan options. One was a little paletta place called Holy Paletta. This was also
Hmm.
in Little Italy, very close to the Yasai. If you don't know what a paleta is, it's basically a Mexican popsicle, but
Yeah.
it's a lot better than your average popsicle because it usually uses whole ingredients. So it'll have like freshly pureed fruits or nuts, things like that. So it's a lot fresher and I would say tastier than your over processed sugar water popsicle. They had a bunch of vegan options. I happened to get the key lime pie option, which was
Mm.
really tasty. And finally, quick shout out to the Invigatorium, which is just a coffee place, but I liked it because they had a bunch of dinosaur statues and like dragons and really fun, kitschy stuff and like
Yeah.
crushed velvet armchairs. I'll share some pictures of this in the newsletter as well.
Yeah, all these places. I'm like, this is Meg.
Oh, yes. My friend was like, you always find the cool places to go. And I'm like, that's my job. I am a self-described hipster. I don't think anyone else self-describes as a hipster. I think people get called that as an insult, but I've embraced it. I'll find the cool hipstery places.
This is just like when you went to Vegas and I'm like, reporting in Meg, our correspondent for food travel.
Yes, I'll be the travel food correspondent. I will happily do that. And
Could you
yes,
come back? I see these pictures and I'm like, ah! And it does make me think of like some two places in LA, which are kind of similar, at least for getting like awesome vegan sushi and, desserts, that I'm like, oh, now I want to leave the house.
you're not that far from San Diego. You could do a little trip.
That's true. We do need to do a little weekend trip down now. But I feel like all of the summer holidays have passed now.
Oh. But yeah, you can have your own little vegan food tour of San Diego. All right, what's the last thing on our menu today?
Ugh, okay. This next one is a real I tried.
Uh-oh.
So to celebrate National Sandwich Month, I was like, who is best known for sandwiches? Or rather, Sandos.
Sandos. It's got to be Molly Baz.
Yes. So I went through our cookbook, Cook This Book, and I found the recipe for fancy French egg salad. And in the picture, it's served over bread. So I was like, this works.
Mhm.
Egg salad sandwich.
Yeah,
Open face.
totally.
So I know we're kind of like the egg cursed podcast. But I will say I cooked the eggs as instructed by Molly Baz. But they just came out. The middle was still a little bit runny. And also I did lose a lot of white peeling.
Oh, I see. Mm-hmm.
That are not winning anymore. Like, I know there was one that I peeled and immediately just sort of like split in half. And I was like, well, there's the yolk. It's like I'm peeling the white away to get the... Ugh, it was Not all of them were a struggle, but a lot of them
Hmm.
were a struggle. And so what the result is, after having lost a few eggs in the game, the most liquid egg salad I've ever seen.
Yeah. Okay, I'm glad to hear you say this because I don't want to be mean and I apologize, but it looks a little vomity. I'm getting vomit vibes.
Yeah. No, that's why I also sent you, like, the picture. I'm like, this is what it's supposed to look like.
Yeah, when I saw that you had captioned that way, I was like, oh, uh-oh.
So the dressing in the recipe is, as the title suggests, very fancy. It has whole grain mustard, Dijon mustard, white wine vinegar, olive oil, cornichons, and capers.
Oh.
It's not just mayonnaise and relish.
This ain't your grandma's egg salad.
Yeah, so you mix all that in steps to ensure the emulsification. You fold in your chopped hard-boiled eggs or whatever eggs you made, and then whatever herbs you had around. I had basil and cilantro. Okay, it was good. It tasted good.
I'm sure it does. Yeah, all those ingredients together sound like a winning combo.
It's just ugly.
Ugly delicious. There's a whole Netflix show about it. You're totally fine.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I tried.
I mean, when life gives you runny eggs, make runny egg salad.
Yeah, at least I wasn't trying to make, deviled eggs, then I would have
Yeah.
been like, nope.
That would be hard to salvage.
It was good.
I'm guessing this is a no for making again.
It's a no from me, dog.
You're getting back on the egg game. I applaud you. And like you said, I'm sure it tasted great.
Yes. Yeah. I think, maybe just need a little more experience making hard-boiled eggs, particularly. And, my setup, it's not the same as what Molly said to do.
I think your instinct was right to go with Molly. She had that whole podcast about sandwiches. She's the supposed sandwich master. Sandwich Universe, I think her podcast was called.
Yeah. Although there wasn't that many sandwiches in her book. There was a couple. But this one was the most appealing to me based off of, I was like, I could make that. And look what I did.
Well, you tried.
I tried. Aren't you due for a failure sometime soon?
Oh, that's next episode.
Oh my god, you keep hinting it.
Well, okay, it was going to be this episode. Here's another preview. I was like, okay, I really messed it up. I'm going to make it again. And then, the second time will be my success and I'll talk about that. Well, I made it again and it turned out even worse the second time. So, next episode, I still have one more chance to get it right. Third time's a charm.
No, the story just keeps getting better and better.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Stay tuned.
Whew. All right, well, that is our menu. I think we had a lot of good stuff, a lot of tasty stuff, and a lot of on-themed things. So,
thank you for saying that. For covering for my non-themed things.
Yeah, but we're going to continue to August next episode.
Yes.
But right now, we're going to talk about the content we've been consuming with our eyeballs, besides from me staring at these pictures Meg shared from our San Diego trip. The first piece of content I want to talk about is a YouTube video from Eddie Burback called The Deceptive World of Ghost Kitchens. Now,
Ghost Kitchens.
Yes. I actually don't want to give too much of the video away because I think it goes on such a great journey, but I will recommend it to folks who especially use like Grubhub or Uber Eats to order delivery from restaurants and maybe have noticed some weird things, like why some restaurants have the same address.
Why you've never heard of that one restaurant or driven past it, even though you've lived in that same neighborhood for your whole life.
Exactly. It is horrific. And it's a reason why I will not be ordering from my local veggie grill anymore.
Interesting.
Yes. Ugh. I mean, I'm just already so like skeeved out by cross-contamination and I'm like, ugh, watch the video. That's all I'm gonna say.
I'm going to dovetail off of that to say there's another Eddie Burback video that I quite enjoyed called I Ate at Every Rainforest Cafe in the Country.
So good.
It's really good. He went to 18 Rainforest Cafe locations in the course of 21 days and drove over 8,000 miles. It's a very, I don't know how to describe it. It's very...
Descent into madness?
Yes. It's very Apocalypse Now in a way. It also... Rainforest Cafe always kind of has that sort of like roadside Americana feel to it, and it's very interesting to see it kind of turn into this dystopian rundown thing. And also it's very odd where you can go to 21 different places across the nation and have it all look approximately the same because it's all from the same corporate template. It's a very interesting video.
Yes. Did you watch his Margaritaville follow-up?
No, that is next on my list of things to watch.
Yes.
I'm sure I will enjoy it just as much.
Yes. So good.
All right, I'm bringing us back to Comic-Con. I apologize because this is a little bit like, oh, you had to be there to experience it. But, you know, I thought that our listeners might enjoy hearing about it a little bit. At Comic-Con, there were a few food-related panels, one of which was by our favorite, Kim Joy. Everyone loves Kim Joy. She had a panel called Baking and Mental Health, and basically she was there to promote her new upcoming graphic novel called Turtle Bread.
Oh my god.
Yes, this comes out on October 3rd, so it'll be released in the US very soon. I think it might be out in the UK already. We briefly talked about this on the podcast previously when she announced it, but the graphic novel is written by Kim Joy, illustrated by someone else, but it's this very cute, very manga, Japanese anime looking, at least aesthetically. It looks very much like manga. And it's about this girl named Yan. This is the description. On her way home from another unsuccessful job interview, Yan stumbles upon Baking Club. Her social anxiety tries to keep her away, but the bakers encourage her to come out of her shell. Shell, like a turtle. As the club bakes together, Yan discovers that her new friends may need her too, more than she realizes. ... And it also features illustrated recipes by Kim Joy throughout the graphic novel. Yeah, it was a great panel. Kim Joy was there to talk about Turtle Bread, the graphic novel, specifically and more generally just about baking and mental health. She's spoken very candidly in interviews and on her own social media about how she's struggled with social anxiety, depression, things like that. So Turtle Bread has kind of been a way for her to explore that artistically. She talked about that in this panel. She had another panel where it wasn't just her, but she was also on a panel with other graphic novel authors and illustrators. So I got to see her twice, which was pretty fun. And I did have the opportunity to ask her a question because there was a Q&A session. And so basically I asked her whether she had always been interested in creative writing or whether this was a newfound passion of hers. And she said that she had always, at least a little bit, wanted to write. And she said when she was a kid, she would write these little stories, these little illustrated stories. And she said that all of the stories she created as a child always ended with, and then they became friends. And she said that that theme has carried over into Turtle Bread as well. So I thought that was very cute.
I love that. I'm so sad I didn't get to meet her when she was here because I was at Beetlejuice.
Yeah, she came to the LA cookbook. Why can I never remember what that place is?
Cookbook bookstore Now Serving.
Now Serving. There we go. Yes, she was in Now Serving. So she must have been doing her US tour during those few weeks. But yeah, it was great to see her. I thought it was also really funny because I was wearing these yellow overalls with this patterned shirt that had leopards on it. And she was wearing a yellow jumper with a red and pink leopard print like pullover over it. And I was like, oh my God, I wore the same outfit as she. I didn't say anything. I was like, if she notices, then I'll say something. But I thought it was pretty funny.
You're both just so cool.
I don't have the cool sunglasses that she wears all the time. There was another panel that in the schedule and in the program was just called The Growth of Fandom Food Shows. And when the schedule was first announced, it said featuring celebrity chefs. And I was like, oh, I wonder who it's going to be. Maybe it'll be someone from Bon Appetit, since it's about fandom food shows. Maybe it'll be like, I don't know, Mythical Morning or whatever it's called, or maybe even Johnny Cakes or something. And then it wasn't until San Diego was well underway that they were like, and it's featuring Duff Goldman. And I was like, oh, it's just Duff. But I decided to go anyway. I will say, like, not the biggest fan of Duff. I mean, I don't dislike him. I just don't follow him. But for those of you who don't know, Duff Goldman is probably best known for Duff Takes the Cake or Cake Masters or perhaps Charm City Cakes. Basically, he does a bunch of those hyper-realistic cakes. That's what I would say he's probably best known for. But I decided to stop in on this panel anyway. It was overall enjoyable, but I would just say he doesn't have a very nuanced food philosophy. I thought the moderator was asking him a lot of interesting questions, and then he would have a very surface level answer that would often end with something like, and isn't bacon great? You know, oh, bacon's so good. He was really into bacon, and I'm just like, okay, well, wasn't that food trend over like 10 years ago or something? I also am suspicious of food experts or people who are considered food experts who have a very limited palate, and I get the impression that he has like a very limited palate. He was saying how he just had real ramen for the first time last year, and I was like, you're supposed to be a food expert, don't come at me with that. But you know, he seemed like an affable, friendly, nice guy, and he was definitely a big nerd. He loves Star Wars, apparently, and he loves Studio Ghibli films. So he was also there to just, you know, be a fanboy like the rest of us nerds there were doing as well. So, and he shared nerds. And he shared a story about how George Lucas called him up just to say how much he liked his X-Wing cake. So, you know, that would be fun as a Star Wars fan. Anyway, that's the food related stuff I did at Comic-Con, and I'll include a link to Kim Joy's turtle bread in the newsletter so that you guys can check it out too.
Yeah! All right, the second piece of content I have is a video game I saw a streamer playing, and it's called Venba. It just came out on July 31st, and it's a narrative cooking game where you play as an Indian mom restoring lost recipes from her family from the Tamil Nadu state of India. So they are now living in Canada. It's a small family. I didn't want to watch too much of it because I became very interested in it, and I didn't want to like super spoil. So it's on Steam and the Nintendo Switch and PlayStation and Xbox, and I'm gonna get it and play it. I watched like the first part where you make idlis, and I was just like, oh, I'm into this.
It looks really cute. I haven't seen that much of it either, but from what I have seen, the art style looks very bright, very colorful. It almost looks a little bit Pixar-y in a way, you know?
Yeah.
Very cute. I would be interested in this as well. And I just recently discovered, I guess I would call it the Netflix of Switch games. It's a Switch rental system, like the old school Netflix. It's called Diderot. And I've tried it out so far. I think it's a great way to sample games and see if you want to buy them or not, or just return them and get another game. So yeah, I think I will try this out through my Switch game rental thing.
Nice. I am like such on the border of getting a Switch only because I know that I would just be like lying in bed playing video games instead of sitting upright at my computer playing video games.
The way that I counteract that is that my eyesight is too bad to do that. So I kind of have to plug it into the TV if I want to be able to read the dialogue.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I'm like, this would be bad for me. I want it, but it would be bad for me.
It's good that you know yourself.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard being a responsible adult. All right, that is everything that we have to share today. For all pictures and links and future articles from Meg, head over to our Substack. You can subscribe to it, and please subscribe by going to podappetit.substack.com. You can comment on there, you can restack.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's right there. It's super easy. There's buttons. There's a heart button. Click it.
Do it. Like and subscribe.
Yeah, it's free. Free content. Speaking of also free content, subscribe to our YouTube channel at pod_appétit on YouTube. All right, like I said, next time we'll be talking about August some more, and I can't wait to hear what Meg's failure is going to be.
You'll finally get to hear about this disaster.
Yeah,
it's a disaster, Claire.
All right, thanks everybody.
Bye. Thanks for listening to Pod Appétit Gourmet Takes.
Go to podappetitpodcast.com for all our episodes and links to everywhere you can find us online.
Also, be sure to subscribe to Pod Appétit Gourmet Takes on your favorite podcatcher.